What up, everyone? I'm Vijesh, and I'm a motion designer and VFX supervisor, and I work at Plexus. This is the whole new segment that we're going to start in the Plexus YouTube channel. It's something that we've been wanting to do for a very long time, but we've not really been able to get a head start. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to do it. So bear with me. First video, let's see how it goes. So we've always wanted to use this channel to talk about motion design and animation, especially that pertaining to title sequences, which is an art form that we really enjoy. If you've seen some of the motion design work that happens in Netflix and Amazon Indian shows, Sacred Games, Fuzzy, Inside Edge, and Mirzapur, Decoupled, and shows like that, those are all designed and animated by Plexus. So it's only natural that we decided that, oh, you know what, let's start doing reaction videos to title sequences, because that's something that we really would have something to say about. So what we want to start with is the title sequence for Severance. It's a show from 2022. It's one of my favorite shows. And the title sequence for the show also won the Outstanding Main Title Design Emmy Award for 2022. And that's a huge win. So let's just jump right into it. That was spectacular. I just don't. I'm short of words when I see title sequences like that are crafted so well, that have such a great cinematic dynamic. So first off, this title sequence is designed by an artist called Extra Weg. I don't know how to pronounce it for sure. And if you know this artist and if you've already seen his work, then you already know where this is going. A lot of the elements that are there in his Instagram page, the kind of weird CGI loops that he does, feature in this title sequence in a really cool way, I think. Like if you look at this video, this is a loop that he's made that features like small bodies coming out of tubes. It's very similar to the suited bodies falling out of the coffee cup in the title sequence. There's a scene in the beginning with the character passing by himself and the guy in the pajamas holding a balloon of several people, and there's something similar to that in his account as well, with the human balloons being dragged by someone. It's very indicative of someone who has been experimenting with a certain style for a very long time, and he's known for it, and then obviously was called to use these kind of styles, and that's what he's done, and he's done it to the best of his ability, and that's really cool. So I was asked, oh, how come you used some of the recurring things that people see in your Instagram account for the title sequence? He said, it's because I wanted to be identified. There are so many title sequences out there, and I wanted to put in these key motives so that people could see that and go like, hey, this was done by that Instagrammer. And that's really cool that Ben Stiller let him do that. And I think that not many people get that option, but good for him. There are several shots of Mark Scout, that's a character's name, but Adam Scott, walking into different situations and different environments and stuff like that. Now, it's very interesting to note that none of that was the actor. A lot of them were stock elements from websites like Mixamo, which is like a library of motion capture data. It's interesting to know that actually he did get a very high-res scan of Adam Scott's face, which is something that I was wondering when I saw the sequence to begin with. You need like a hyper close-up shot, which shows a lot of really cool detail that makes it look photorealistic, at least up close, and you put that right in the beginning of the sequence, and that sells it. That makes you kind of subconsciously feel that everything from then on is also like hyper detailed and stuff like that, but it's not. It's the play is that there's a lot of minimalism that works because of how well it's lit. There are contrast zones that your eye just travels to in a shot when it's being played out, and then your eye just follows motion, so everything else in the environment, if you notice, it's just minimal in the sense that is very friendly to production. If you look at the floors, then you can see that in the office spaces they have used like really nice and reflective and clean floors, and when you transition to outside, then they've used like snow as a completely different looking background. But apart from that, the elements that they've used are quite minimal. Now, I'm just going to talk about a few things that are spoilers for the show, in the sense that if you haven't seen the show, then this might reveal a few things to you. So if you haven't seen it, then just skip this part. But I love how all of these are indicative of this character who's just sort of like walking into this world and discovering things that just blow his mind, that make no absolute sense whatsoever. And I found that really interesting as a parallel to what's happening in the show. There's a character on a journey, he's trying to figure out things, and every step of the way he's getting surprised. The doorway is a very important recurring element in the show, because in the show there's the concept that once you exit the door, you have no memory of it, and then the only thing you remember next is when you walk back into this doorway. And you can clearly see how the designer has used that aspect of the doorways kind of just being like a portal to different kind of a dimension in a way. Another thing that I really like is how it represents corporate structure, and how they're like several cubicles or a coffee cup that is overflowing. And there's also a key card on this character who's jumping. That's really cool. It's something that I've noticed. Another detail that I really love in this shot is how the clock is turning. Hour handle is moving forward, but the minute handle is moving backward. It just kind of shows that this world isn't real. How this sofa melts into a beanbag and melts into like another liquid, and before he knows it, he's submerged in this cup full of bodies. This visual is really symbolic of the show, about how this guy who's trying to navigate his way out of the system realizes that he's actually jumping straight into the system again, and he's not able to jump out. It's such a cool, evocative visual. It represents the show so well. It's a constant loop of him trying to figure out how to get out of this space, and then he constantly keeps getting sucked back into situations that put him back to square one. So that's a really cool recurring element that he has captured so well visually, and I love that about this title sequence. Look at how effortless that transition is, moving from that black sludge back into the callback of that first shot where you saw all that black sludge coming out of the trash can again. So you can see how this is such a really nice book ending. It started off with one guy, it ends with two, but then it glitches and it goes back to one. Another important aspect I wanted to talk about is the title design in this sequence. If you look at the titles, you think, why are they so simple? Why are they designed so simply? It's sort of like a Helvetica-ish font. You wonder why this kind of simplistic approach is there, but it's very deliberate, and it's because they want to give it a feel of like corporate identity from like 70s and 80s, that period of time. There are like brochures from like Toshiba and NASA and stuff like that they referred for what titles looked like and how typography was used back in the day, and they've given it that kind of feel. And so you can understand what they were thinking when they came up with that, and I think that's like a master stroke. I really love that it's not very complicated, using a very plain color that contrasts the background. I love how there's this illusion of scale at every step. It starts off with him looking like a normal human size, and then he's in the cubicles, and then suddenly he's in this cup, so now you immediately know that the scale has shifted, and then he jumps and now he's in a human head, and the human head is in another set of cubicles, and when the camera fully comes out, you see a syringe come into the frame and suck them all in. So now you know that all of this is so small compared to the syringe. So like there's a massive jump in scale that these guys are like this small, and now you're like in extreme macro space with like particles and droplets of those black liquid and people floating around, and like suddenly there's another shift in scale, you know. And then once again, that character that gets completely filled with the black liquid becomes part of the shadow which is on the ground. So there's another shift in scale. So it's like you keep constantly pulling out and pulling out and pulling out. And I think that's symbolic in a way when you're talking about how big corporations are and how much power they have over people and how much they can actually control your lives without you even knowing it. And even if you know it, there's nothing that you can really do. This is a spectacular title sequence and I feel like it totally deserves that Emmy. But apart from that, I also feel like on a conceptual level and on an artistic level, it's really like standing ovation material. So I really hope that you like this breakdown of the title sequence, and I hope that I've said some things that you probably hadn't thought about yet. So if you guys want to watch more videos like this, then please hit subscribe, hit that bell icon, make sure that all notifications is enabled. Check us out on Instagram, we're at @plexus.motion. If you want to see my goofy face, then I'm at Vijesh.plexus. That's all for now. I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye bye. Shaba khair.